Hey everyone, it's Nia. I'm back in the Food52 test kitchen, and today we are making a really easy Neapolitan style pesto and shrimp pizza. It is dairy-free. Even though I do make homemade pizza dough for this recipe, I promise you it's a no-knead pizza dough, and the rest of the assembly is really easy. We're just gonna marinate some shrimp. We're using store-bought pesto. Yeah, what else? That's kind of it. I'm making aioli. Super easy. Perfect for summer. You could bring it on the go if you want. You could make all the different things and bring it to like a friend's house if they have a pizza oven or something. I have about a pound of shrimp that are just thawing here, frozen. They do have the tail on. I'm gonna remove those before we start cooking with them. But for the pizza dough, I'm using bread flour, and the reason why I say this is a Neapolitan style pizza is because I'm doing a pretty high hydration dough. Usually for Neapolitan style, I think traditionally it's about 60 to 65% hydration, so water versus flour. I'm doing an 80% hydration dough, which I think is more kind of similar to like a Detroit style pizza, I'm pretty sure. But I like the sound of Neapolitan style pizza better, so that's what we're calling it. If you do want to be really exact, I would recommend getting a kitchen scale if you don't have one. I think it's a lot easier than using measuring cups, and you're just gonna get a way more accurate measurement. So I'm gonna add 313 grams of bread flour. You could use all-purpose flour if you want, but bread flour has more protein in it, which is gonna make the dough a little bit chewier, a little bit stretchier, which I really like, and is really good for pizza, of course. This recipe also makes 2 pizzas, 2 12-inch pieces. If you want to make 4 or make 6, you can just double or triple the recipe. Totally up to you. I'm using instant yeast for this. It's a little bit more forgiving if you're adding salt or sugar or things like that versus active yeast. Sometimes it can be a little bit finicky, and then you also have to activate it with lukewarm water. I'm just using it because it's easy right now. I'm adding half a teaspoon yeast. This is about 3 grams. Then I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Salt is really important when you're making any type of bread, any type of like yeasted dough. It's gonna have a lot of effect on the flour and also how it rises and just the end structure of the pizza. I'm gonna mix this together. Okay, I'm gonna set the kitchen scale to 0, really important. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do a lot of math in your head. It's a very high hydration dough. Don't be scared of it. I know it can kind of be intimidating because looser doughs sometimes are a little bit harder to work with, and it might look very loose at first, but as it sits and we're gonna do some like folds and rises and stuff like that, it's gonna tighten up and it's gonna be way more easier to work with. So I'm doing 250 grams of water. The scary thing about adding water now is that if I add too much, there's not really any going back. Just make sure to keep track of the scale numbers. This is literally all we're gonna do. I'm just mixing it with a spoon. Then I'm gonna cover it up with plastic wrap and let it rise. Perfect. So this is what you want it to look like. Just kind of like a wet dough that looks very unkneadable. So this is gonna sit at room temperature for 1 hour. Then after it's done its first rise, you're gonna come back. We're gonna lift the dough, fold it in towards the center, all the way around, let it do another rise, repeat that twice more, do a final rise, and then it's ready to use. But because we don't have all day, I did make a swap. Enter our swaps. So these I actually made 2 days ago. The longer you let it sit, you don't wanna let it sit for like a week, but it's gonna develop a lot more flavor. Even though just like a 2-hour rise is totally fine, it's still gonna be delicious. I did it the other day. The 2-day rise is gonna be even better. This is what the high hydration dough looks like after rising. And this is what the 65%, the lower hydration looks like. And you can see there's a big difference. This one has spread out more. This one has kind of kept its shape a little bit more. I really like to use the higher hydration because I just feel like it's a little bit easier to work with. I know that sounds contradicting because it has more water. I just felt like it was a little bit more relaxed and was easier to shape. And also the crust was better, I thought. Marinated for shrimp, super easy. 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And then I'm going to add, oh, this is not a lemon. Okay, let's go, you wanna go get a lemon? Okay, well, this is what we're doing. I'm gonna use the zest from this lemon, and then since this one is bigger and juicier, I'm gonna squeeze this one. Our trusty flusser, the best juicer. Kind of rhymed. Overall in the recipe, I'm gonna end up using 2.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1.5 for the marinade, and then 1 for the aioli. So while I'm juicing, I figure I may as well just juice all of it at once, so I don't have to do it again. I love using this flusser. I find it a lot easier to use than your standard citrus juicer, I guess. You just pop it in here and you squeeze. And the seeds get caught here on the bottom too, so you don't have to worry about seeds getting in whatever you're making. Also, this thing is really nice. It says the tablespoon measurements on it, which makes it really easy for when you're doing stuff like this, where you have to you don't really want to measure out just a tablespoon, you know? Sometimes it can kind of feel annoying. Okay, zest of 1 lemon, ideally the same one that you just juiced. I'm also gonna add 1 clove of grated garlic. I hate chopping garlic, so I just find grating it is a lot easier. The size in which you cut your garlic does have an effect on how garlicky your dish is gonna be. So I'm also gonna add 1 teaspoon of, did I add salt already? No.
Yeah,
I did?
No, you add to the...
Oh yeah, the dough, oh my God. When I'm measuring out 4 cups of flour and I only have half a measuring cup, I'm like, it's so hard to keep track of how many you're adding. I feel like I always lose track. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then, oh, whoa, that came out fast. Came out very fast. A generous amount of pepper, I guess. Because I love the kind of heat and the kick that you get from red pepper chili flakes, I'm gonna add, whoops, I'm gonna add half a teaspoon. Just gonna mix this together. Oh, I almost forgot the lemon juice. So 1.5 tablespoons. So the feedback I got on my pizza last time was that they wanted more shrimp. I decided that I'm gonna cut them into pieces. So actually I first have to remove these little tails. One easy way to do that is just the pinch and pull method. So you just pinch and pull. Instead of having to get the cutting board out and cut the shrimp and get your cutting board all messy, I'm just gonna cut the shrimp with some kitchen scissors. I'm gonna snip them into thirds. Recently, me and Tam and Paul went to Burlington, Vermont to shoot a video with my parents who own Ale Glass. We're actually selling a few things on the store, a cake plate and this really cool bowl with a stand. We ordered pizza from this place called Folino's, and we ordered their leaky chicken, which is really good. We also got the Fire Kracker Shrimp, which is my favorite. It has some kind of spiced shrimp, it has spinach, it has red onion, it has an aioli on top, and that's where I kind of drew inspiration for this pizza. These are deveined on the back, but there is a little vein that goes through, it's basically their digestive tract that goes through the shrimp, and some people find it gross not to remove that. Doesn't really matter, I don't notice the difference, but okay. So I'm gonna add the shrimp to the marinade. Give them a light toss. You can do this ahead of time if you want, let them sit in the fridge for a little bit, but I wouldn't let them sit for more than 30 minutes because seafood is pretty sensitive to salt, and the acid and salt can start to break down the proteins in the fish and everything. So no more than 30 minutes if you're gonna do it ahead. Dust your work surface with a generous amount of flour. You wanna have some on the side too because you're gonna need it. And if you do an overnight rise or a 2-day rise like I did, keep it in the fridge and then remove it about an hour or 45 minutes to an hour before to let it come to room temperature and to relax, and that will just make it a lot easier to work with. Lots of flour. And the thing too about Neapolitan pizza dough is that you can easily make extra and make focaccia instead if you have leftover, if you don't want to only make pizza. Cup your hands around it and pull towards you, and this kind of helps to shape the ball and tightens the dough. At this point you're not mixing the flour in, so don't be afraid of adding lots of flour. now before I start shaping and stretching the dough, I just want to mention that Alexandra Stafford was here about 2 weeks ago and she made her Neapolitan style pizza. So she kind of taught me how to shape the pizza properly. So what you want to do is start in the middle with your hands or your fingers. And you're just going to press out like this to the edges until you have a whatever size of pizza that you want. So this kind of just pushes all the air out towards the crust, which is going to make sure that most of the rising in the oven happens on the crust, on the thick part. Make sure that there's enough flour on the bottom. So I actually used to work at a pizza spot in Burlington, Vermont. It was called Pizzeria Veritas, and I think it was my first restaurant job, and I worked in the salad and dessert station. There we would make all the gluten-free pizzas because they needed to have a different oven than the regular pizza. And we would make all the salads that came through, and I would also get to decorate the desserts, which that was really fun for me. I loved that. That's kind of where I learned about using pizza dough to make focaccia. We would use the same exact dough, do the little dents with your hand, add some olive oil, sprinkle salt, and it was so good. I feel like this is a lot of pressure right now to make this pizza look perfect. Okay, so I actually kind of take back what I said before. Again, I'm not an expert pizza maker, guys. This is the 80% one. This is the 65% one. I don't take back what I said about the low versus hydration. However, this one I did the cupping thing, and this one I didn't do that. I kind of just took it out of the pan, added some flour, and just stretched it out. The thing that I like better about doing it this way is that if you do any type of kneading or anything like that, you're tightening the gluten strands and the dough is just going to be less relaxed overall, which is why this is kind of stretching back in. And it took a little bit longer to make it nice and big. So it's a little crinkly, but that's okay. It's gonna look great after we bake it. And for this one, the dough is already so relaxed from proving. So it really hasn't sprung back at all, which is really nice. I'm gonna add the pizza to the parchment paper and we're gonna assemble it on here, and it's gonna make it a whole lot easier to put the pizza in the oven and to remove it as well. And also, even a 500-degree oven is not gonna really burn the parchment. It's gonna look a little charred when you take it out of the oven, but it's not gonna catch on fire or anything like that. This one is a lot looser, so this one has a little bit more, it was a little easier to pick up versus this one. I noticed it wanted to start to stretch more and possibly break, but it didn't, so. The thing I will say about this one, I think it's gonna have much more of a defined crust than this one will. So I just have this small red onion that I'm gonna cut in half and thinly slice. I feel like there has to be some good onion peeling hacks. 1/2 for each pizza. Usually when you're making a pizza, it's nice to have all the components be able to stand on their own. But with an onion, it's just an onion. Also, very important to know, I've preheated the oven to 500 degrees. This one doesn't go any higher. Your oven might go to 550. In that case, do 550. And I also have a pizza stone on the rack as well. If you don't have a pizza stone, you could invert a rim baking sheet. Make sure to preheat that as well. I only have half a container of this pesto left. That's all you need, especially for 2 pizzas. If you're making 4, use a whole container. It was probably like 1/4 of a cup of pesto on each pizza. Got the pesto. The pizza that I was referencing at the restaurant uses spinach, but I'm using arugula. I love arugula on my pizzas, especially with prosciutto. Doing a thin layer on the bottom. So we're gonna add a little bit of arugula on the top after the pizza has cooked. Sprinkle some onions, giving the shrimp another stir just to make sure that they are really coated and marinated before I add them to the pizza. Since making a lot of pizza dough recently, I've started to not become addicted, but I'm like, oh, it's so easy. I wanna make this all the time. And so actually on Saturday, me and my friends are hanging out at my friend's house and we're gonna make pizza. And we're gonna go to the farmer's market, get some fresh produce. These are ready to bake. I don't know why I didn't preheat both of the ovens, honestly, because we do have 2 pizza stones, but we'll just have to bake them one at a time. They only bake for 14 minutes, so it's not like they have to bake for like half an hour or 30 minutes. This makes it a whole lot easier to just slide the pizza right into the oven. If you don't have one of these, just use a cutting board or a rim baking sheet. Whatever you have that can fit the pizza will be fine. So we're baking the low hydration pizza first. So this is gonna bake for 14 to 16 minutes. Usually I find 14 is perfect, but if you like it a little bit more crispy and crunchy, do 16. While this one bakes, we're gonna make an aioli. A 1/4 cup of aioli. Oh, shoot, oh well, that's okay. I hate that sound. Probably should have. It's making a lot of noises. 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We're just measuring the rest of the lemon juice, which is 1 tablespoon. Okay, let's take the pizza out. It looks really good. It's actually not as charred on the crust as I would have liked ideally, but that's okay. Gonna put it on here and let's bake the other one. I'm also gonna add 1/2 clove of garlic to the aioli as well. A hack my dad showed me, I think he saw it on an Instagram reel. It's if you need to peel a bunch of garlic cloves at once, you can put them in a little cup, put them in the microwave for, I can't remember how many seconds, maybe like 10, and they pop and the peel kind of pops off the actual garlic and makes it a lot easier to peel, it works really well. But 1 very generous pinch of red pepper flakes. Also gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt and a bit more black pepper, but as we saw before, it comes out really fast in this one. When me and my best friend in high school would go out at night in Burlington, we would come home and we had this crazy obsession with aioli toast. We would literally come home at like 2 a.m. We would toast some sourdough or whatever bread we had, and we would make a really quick aioli, and we would just spread it right on top of the toast, and it was so good. So this has been in for 14 minutes, but this oven is not cooperating, so it's not done yet. But you can see, if you take a look, you can see this crust, the lower hydration one, the crust is a lot thicker. It's gonna look, if the oven was working as it should, it would look a little bit more crisp and fluffy and have more air bubbles. But it's okay, we're gonna let that bake a little longer and we're just gonna assemble this one for now. Okay, so a little bit more arugula on top. And then in a swirl motion, we're gonna do a nice drizzle of aioli. Nice. And you can, we have the rest for the other pizza, but if there's any more left over, it's really nice to dip the crust in it too. Let's put it in a pizza box. I am going on a picnic with my friend after work today, so I might actually, since we have these pizza boxes, I might just take the next one with me home later. Anybody want pizza? Pizza delivery. I like to cut my pizzas with a pair of scissors. If you have a pizza cutter, that probably works better. Even if you do eat cheese, you would not miss it in this pizza. They only add so much. It's super creamy. It's so good. And I could definitely see myself eating this whole pizza. Yeah?
That's so good.
Thanks.
The lemon shines through really well.
Ideally, I would like the crust to be a little thicker if the oven was hot enough, but you can see there's some nice air pockets here. If you want to make this, you can find the recipe in the description below. Yeah, below. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you want to see any more pizza recipes. I will gladly make more, and I will see you in the next recipe drop.